favorite hobbies is watching movies. Thriller movies to be precise. Those scenes when you think that the villain is finally dead after that 45-minute fight scene that we just had to watch through, and then they suddenly rise back up out of nowhere, the wind is blowing, they're walking in slow-mo, and suddenly they bring out their guns, and pew, 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 shots are being fired, and then the hero who's kept looking at himself like, am I okay, from the previous fight scenes, like, oh, here we go again. And then we have to watch through another whole fight scene, and then the next thing you know, the villain is finally dead, and we're happy again. It's a happy ending. But it's all fun in games, movies, and fiction until it happens in real life. May 7th, 2019, the bell had just rung, we were all ready to go home, but suddenly I hear murmurs around the room. And when I asked my friend what it was about, she showed me her phone, and there it said, "Breaking news, STEM high school shooting." That moment broke me into millions of pieces. I wondered to myself, this is a thing? High school shootings are a thing? And don't get me wrong, I had just moved to the United States in 2015, so I had not really heard of many high school shootings before, and I was fairly new to this idea. So I did some research, and I went home, I did some research, and I asked myself, what makes someone wake up in the morning, pick up a gun, and go do this horrendous act? That's when I learned about mental health. That's when I also learned about many other high school shootings that had taken place. And that's when I also realized that we need to help fix the situation. I then also started researching on how to improve this. And the biggest word that popped out to me in an article was kindness, which is why I started my own initiative called the Kindness Inspires Kind Acts Project. So the first initiative that I had with this project was my Kika coins, which are Kindness Inspires Kind Acts coins, which are also our kindness coins that you pass on to others when you see them do a kind act. So if you see someone do a kind act, you would tell them to pass it on to another person who has done a kind act. And this way, kindness spreads in the community, leaving a trail of positivity. And that is so important after all the things that people go through in their lives, and we don't see that. So I wanted to take this further ahead, and which is why I got the opportunity to write and publish my own children's book called Nisha and the Magic Coin. When I published this book, I made myself a goal of going to 10 elementary schools to speak about my initiative and read my book and talk about how important it is to understand what mental health is in youth. I would just like to take you on a little journey of how it feels like to read the book to kindergartners, first graders, second graders, third graders, and the type of feedback I get from them. So, Nisha and the Magic Coin. This book is dedicated to every child around the world to find the courage to stand up when someone needs you. Here we are, meeting the characters. Nisha is a girl from India, very, very far away from home in Denver, Colorado. She has moved here because her mom and dad got new jobs. Everything is so different: the food, the sounds in the street, the clothes, and the many languages people speak. Today is Nisha's first day at her new school. She thinks to herself, will the kids talk to me? Will they be my friends? Nisha is in a wheelchair. Her dad is pushing her down the hallway to her classroom. Her teacher, Mrs. Loxton, invites her into the classroom, and she waves goodbye to her dad as she rolls over to her desk and the teacher begins her lesson. So, when you came to your school, did you make new friends? Every single kid in the classroom starts pointing to their best friends and hugging their best friends, saying, this guy right here. And that's really opened my mind, like how inclusive the young kids are. So I move on. It's lunchtime, and as Nisha wheels her down the hallway, a boy named Ayansh starts walking with her to the cafeteria. Ayansh invites his best friend, Oliver, over to sit with them. Nisha sees there's a boy sitting all by himself. She asks Ayansh and Oliver why this boy is all alone. They say, oh, that's Luca. He always sits alone. He's kind of weird. Nisha thinks he must feel sad or lonely with no friends. Have you ever felt lonely? And this is when some feedback really shocked me. I saw each kid was really ready to share when they ever have felt lonely. One kid said, I feel lonely when my sister invites her friend over and I'm not allowed to hang out with them. And I was like, yeah, I do that too, but it's okay. And then another kid says, I feel lonely when my parents don't get me what I want. And I'm like, okay, so that is a thing you need to figure out with your parents. But anyways, so these are the little things that I really observe in kids and how interactive and energetic they are to really speak with you. I do this initiative in the morning in the elementary schools, and then I go back to my high school to continue my education, and there's a huge difference. Like, I am over here asking all these questions to students younger than me, and they're all so energetic, and they're like, yes, I want to answer the question. And when the teacher over here asks us, there's maybe like 3 people in the room who actually raise their hand and just let everybody else take the wheel. And that really made me realize, what is that bridge that we as humans cross from this energetic person who's ready to communicate and share their feelings to this person who's ready for others to take the wheel? And that also made me realize that schools teach emotional learning, and they really take care of that. But what about failures? We're really good at identifying failures, that's for sure. But what about emphasizing that failure is just an event? What about emphasizing that failure sharpens you, but never defines you? High schools do a great job teaching about, oh, don't do drugs, oh, don't do alcohol, oh, don't do all this, that. But what about also teaching self-care, self-respect, and self-peace? Because that is what's lacking in the teens my age. And if that goes along in the future, that does so much damage that we don't understand. According to CDC, 1 in 6 young kids are found planning suicide attempts in the past couple of years. That is a 44% increase since 2009. 44. That is a lot. That is almost half. How are we letting this happen? You can see my disability. You can see that my mobility is on a wheelchair. But if I ask you to read my mind and what's going on right now, I bet you can't tell what's going on. Because unfortunately, we don't have the magical powers of reading each other's minds. That's why I believe that it's the smallest things that make the biggest difference in people's lives. I would like to share a little anecdote with you guys. It was the first couple of weeks of high school, completely different environment. I was very new to this school and the community, so I didn't really have many friends who came along with me. So I was one of the few who came from my feeder school. So, and I see everybody else, have their own friend groups, mingling and all that. And I was so frustrated, and I went back home one day and I told my mom, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go to the school where all my other friends are. I want to have my own friend groups. And my mom told me, why do you wait for other people to come be friends with you? Why don't you make that connection first? And I was like, so social anxiety is a thing. But I did go try that because, I got to do what my mom says. But at first I was like, oh, no, I don't want to do this. But then when I actually tried it, what I did was, as I was going down the hallway, I saw people walk by, and I just randomly waved at them. I did get a lot of weird looks, which I would do too, but the couple of them did wave, and I was like, okay, this might work, but I wasn't fully convinced. So the next day, I waved at some more people, but then I also recognized that the previous day people also waved back at me. And I was like, this is actually working? That is weird. So I kept going with it, and now I'm a senior at my high school, and I have so many people that wave to me in the hallways because I took that first uncomfortable step forward to make that connection with them. And that's just a little story of how you can take that first step to make differences in others' lives. According to mentalhealth.org, kindness is an antidote to isolation and creates a sense of belonging. Belonging. Let's absorb that, shall we? Belonging. There are so many people, there are adults, teens, people my age, young children who don't feel like they belong. And that is just so heartbreaking to me. Why do we, as a society, have to deal with that and not have people feel like they belong? Because everybody in this community and in this world have a purpose. They have a purpose. It sounds really weird, but they do. Everybody here has a purpose, whether it's for their family, whether it's for themselves, whether it's for the world. They have something to pitch in. So I think that we as a community need to take that first step forward in order to make those differences in other people's lives who can't speak up because of their sufferings. Kindness is a free gift we give to others, but the reward in return is rich. Thank you.